Support for this show, Politics Done Right, comes from politicsdoneright.com, publishers of How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It, As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom, It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors, and other books written by Egberto Willis. Welcome to another edition of Politics Done Right. My name is Egberto Willis, your host. As you know, we've been covering Venezuela and trying to reach people not through the mainstream media that most of the time are simply towing either a White House line or a neoliberal line. I've been trying to reach people that are directly involved in Venezuela, who understand Venezuela and is not part of the plutocracy here in the United States from Venezuela that is attempting to mislead Americans about what's really happening in that country. I'm honored today to have Elizabeth Raven. Elizabeth is the researcher and retired professor at the Universidad Central de Venezuela, residing in Caracas, Venezuela. It's my honor to have you on our program today, Elizabeth. Welcome to Politics Done Right.
Thank you, Edgardo.
Egberto.
Oh, sorry, Egberto. Okay, I don't know where did I get that.
You know what? It doesn't matter. Everybody, whether it's in Latin America or Central America, no matter what, they give my name a hard
it's
time.
Okay. We have Egbertos here, not much, but we have.
But you have Gilberto, Rigoberto, and all the other Bertos.
Yeah, a lot of Bertos, yeah.
Yes. Anyway, look, I know this is not a happy time. First of all, I won't say the specific news, but I want to tell you, felicitaciones, congratulations on the good news you heard personally today. I am very, very happy for you. But we also know that, first of all, before we get into all Venezuela, that you were personally affected by the bombings, given that a family member of yours in a scientific area was affected. Why don't you explain?
Okay. I just knew that like an hour or 2 hours ago, so I'm still shocked about it. Nobody's dead. They are alive, but it was a very traumatic experience. I have a brother-in-law, the youngest of my brother's family, that was at his girlfriend's house, okay? She lives 2 blocks from Maduro's house, Maduro's residence, what we call their yellow house. Mm-hmm. It's not white, it's yellow, but it's the same thing. So when these strikes happened at the, presidential house, he watched that like actually very close. He watched the missiles and everything was a nightmare. His girlfriend and her daughter, they were yelling and crying. They didn't know what to do. Some neighbor told them to go to the basement and they just did that. And being there, he called his son. His sons, and they are visiting the mother in some of them. The 2 of them are in Spain, but one of them, Francisco, is in Venezuela, so he immediately called my nephew. And my nephew had gone to La Guaira, which is maybe the place. It's at the sea. La Guaira is where all the ships and aircraft, right. Everything, Trump, not Trump, but U.S. is there. Okay, but he went to La Guaira without permission of his father. So when he called the boy, he asked and he says, "Sorry, Dad, I'm in La Guaira. I am in Atialamar," which is where he was exactly. And he started like reprimanding him until he realized that his son was crying like a kid, because at that same moment he was watching the missiles very close to him and he didn't know what to do. Like many attacks were there. That's there. We have the main, one of the 2 main ports in Venezuela is there. They attacked the port. They attacked the Social Security Venezuelan Institute, where they keep the medicines that we don't make and come from outside, mainly India and places like that. So I don't know exactly why the hell they attacked that, but they did. I understand the port, but that specific place, I don't know. But anyway, the thing is that his son, he just watch the missiles there. His son was watching them, another missiles at that time. And then, so he told him, go to East because there's nothing to attack there. And he went with his friend, who was the owner of the car. They went there. And so they just tried to find a hotel to stay the night. And they didn't allow it. They just closed the door and said, no, I won't receive you. They had to stay the whole night outdoors.
In a car.
In a car close to the beach because it's not just, it's all beach there. La Guaira is there, that is all beach. And then like half an hour later, I received a WhatsApp message from my daughter-in-law, which is the youngest sister of my husband. And I had the whole story about the attack to the what we call IVIC, which is the Institute of Research in Science, the main in Venezuela. And then I knew I was very naive when I thought that they were just attacking the communication towers there. That's what I thought it happened. But then I just had the news that it wasn't that only. They destroyed the mathematical building. They affected the biology building and the chemistry building where oil studies are done. At least 4 buildings were affected, and the mathematical one, the 5th, was destroyed. So I just knew that 2 hours ago. So I'm still recovering of that.
That doesn't surprise me at all. What they're trying to do is decimate the Venezuelan intellectual infrastructure. Because the idea is if you dissect the intellectual infrastructure that is supportive of the type of regime that is supportive of the people, then you want to make sure that doesn't exist. So that doesn't surprise me at all. Now,
it's not the first time.
Right. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. I think that is typical modus operandi. In fact, our administration is a very anti-science administration, and it really has no interest in anything other than some sort of a bullying. Now, let's get specific to Maduro. Maduro got arrested. I'm putting in some requests to ask some other folks that understand how these operations work. Why was Maduro so easy to capture?
Okay. Well, first of all, many people say that if we were so prepared with the help of the Russian and the Chinese people, it happened. Okay. We did have help, but we're not warriors. It's not like we are used to confront these kind of operations. First of all, that. Second of all, no matter how prepared we are, the United States is too powerful. Okay? That's the only truth that Trump has said in his whole speech. Okay? That is true. So we had raiders, but we know that they knew where they were and they blew it up before it could be used. Yeah. Yeah, of course. They strike all the communication towers they could around Miraflores. And we had even some Cuban soldiers with our Venezuelan soldiers in the Guard of Honor, they call it. But they couldn't do a thing. And well, there is another side of the story. Okay, why was he at the presidential house? He's very reckless. Yeah. I don't know if you saw or watched the interview the last day of 2025, Did you?
Yes.
Okay, he was in a car driving around the city.
Well, I think what he wanted to show, and I know it's reckless, but I think what he wanted to show is what America is telling its people is true. How can this president drive around Caracas or drive around these other parts and I also saw videos with him among a whole lot of people. Yeah, in the middle of a lot of people.
Every day.
And what he was trying to show is, can Trump do this? There was some psychology there to say, you are telling Americans that the people don't like me, that I am putting the shoe down on the people. Yet I have armed these people to protect themselves. And I am out there in the masses with these people, and I'm not scared to get shot. While whenever Trump gets close to the people, there has been 2 attempts on his life. So I think that is one of the things. Go ahead.
Let me tell you something. Not only that, You know, this guy have $50 million on his head, you know? And
yes,
any of these people could have said, I want that money because, you know, I don't think in Venezuela many people would have that kind of money.
right. I need to ask you the question this way then. Over here in the United States, the narrative that we have, and a lot of this narrative come from Venezuelans, from the plutocracy that have, you know, I explained that there are many types of Venezuela. The ones who left were able to fly over here and with their monies, etc. And then there are the Venezuelans. What is the reality about Maduro? And I want to ask you about Chavez later on. But what's the reality about Maduro's popularity?
Okay. Maduro is no way near Chavez in this sense. Okay. Chavez was like beloved for most of the population. Okay. We can say that in Venezuela, there are maybe, I don't have the numbers here now, but it can be around 15% or 10% of very right-wing, and not necessarily right-wing, okay, but very
anti-Maduro,
radical okay? Those people hate him, okay? That's clear for me. Then we have maybe around, let's say, 30%, 30-something that love him, okay? Mm-hmm. And then there is a bunch of people in the middle that they don't hate Maduro. They don't love Maduro. They don't even care about Maduro. They only care about having a good life. And if Maduro does it, that's perfect for them. Okay? So I don't know if that's...
No, that makes sense. I mean, that is, they would make you believe that the whole population simply hates Maduro and he has the boot on the neck of every Venezuelan and they're just trying to get out of there because of his tyrannical behavior. Is that true?
No, it's not. It's not. I mean, if it were true, it would happen already, you know? It's not months. You want to get rid of Trump after 1 year, okay? Well, he's been as a president for 13 years. So why is not out? Because he has a lot of people that follow him and a lot of people that
support him.
Don't want the violent way. Because these people that I tell you that here maybe are like 10 or 15. I don't think if they are 50% because there are a lot out of Venezuela. Mm-hmm. Not all. That's another story because some Chavez went out and they are not against Maduro, but the situation was too hard. Okay. Mainly young people. Okay. So how can I tell you this? You know, forgive my English. Sometimes I have to.
No, if at any time you need to just say something in Spanish in a sentence.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I forgot. Okay, well, now I lost my.
Your train of thought. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, but so the situation is very different. Okay, this story is a very complex story because it is 27 years of story. It's not 13. It's not now. It's very long. We've had a lot of attacks, violent attacks from the opposition, financed by the United States, sometimes even openly supported by them. We've had like 3 or 4 coups. The first one was to Chavez, and they couldn't. Well, they haven't done it yet, but they've tried again and again. We've had violent riots. I almost laugh when I watch some of your riots there, and it's so, wow, you know, so violent, according to you. I mean, not you, but yours, you know, the people there. And I just wrote this yesterday. What if you see a riot that lasts weeks, that lasts more than a month, and it's not on TV, it's outside your house? You cannot go outside your house to buy food or medicines or whatever, because somebody will throw a Molotov homemade bomb to your car. Because how dare you try to do your normal life if we decided that Venezuela is stopped until Maduro leaves? Okay, so, and we've had that at least twice with our
opposition. So you're up
friend Maria Corina Machado, with our beloved friend Leopoldo Lopez and Julio Borges and
Guaido.
And Guaido, of course. Well, he's he's nobody. Okay.
Yeah, he's very weak. But the interesting thing about it is, again, over here, what the Venezuelan plutocracy has promoted alongside the American plutocracy is that somehow this president in Venezuela, Maduro, as the person who's taken over from Chavez, is really having its people under duress. Nobody is arguing that the economic situation in Venezuela is difficult. But what one argues is that the economic situation in Venezuela is difficult, not solely because of Maduro's policies, but because of what the external repercussions of the American sanctions and the boycotts, etc. Is that something that you agree with?
Yeah. And before I get there, where I was going is, if you had all those things happening, of course you'll have a reaction. No government won't react, or any government will not react to that. So some reactions might seem authoritarian. Some reactions might be seen like not very democratic. Okay, but it's a thing of cause and effect. How do you protect your country if you don't put in jail some people until you realize if they are not guilty? It's like, okay. And, there are things like you will see lists of people disappeared. Okay. Well, now that everybody that disappears in Venezuela, it doesn't matter if the wife killed him or it's just a gang thing or whatever. If somebody says my husband is missing, it goes to the list. It has to be and worse than that, that person never gets out of the list. So when you see list, it's full of people that maybe was like a week being interrogated and then they went home after some of these coups or violent riots or things like that. So how can we not have people, detained if this is done every year? Well, I am tired of it, actually. And then about the economic situation, yes, we made some bad decisions. For example, Maduro and Chavez too at first, they tried to push socialism, You can't push because we were very capitalist, like USA kind of capitalist. Their influence was a very long one. So they started like expropriating some businesses and they put control on prices of, chicken, eggs, corn, things that were supposed to be important for people. Of course, that didn't work. First of all, because politicals are not business people, right. Like they will break the business that they have very easily. And then because when you control price in a capitalist economy, they just don't sell the food. They export it, And then you have to try as a government to avoid that. And that's very difficult. So we had for a while no food available, and then the sanctions, and then, we corrected that path, and then the sanctions didn't give the money to the government to buy things that are needed. So many people from the opposition, they say, oh, you destroyed the oil industry. And I was like, okay, I'm going to give you an example. We have several refineries for gasoline, okay? And then every time one refinery stopped because, technology, breaks and they do have to change parts. Well, so we couldn't do it because all the parts whatsoever were USA made, and the sanctions didn't permit us to buy anything from the United States. Okay? So we had to do things like this. We had to stop a small refinery to take that part to put it in the big one so we could still refine. And that kept happening. And at one moment, we didn't have any refinery working. So we had to look for help. Of course, we found Russia and Iran to help us. And we had to reconvert our oil industry to another technology before we started processing, selling whatever we could. In the meantime, if I'm talking too much, you can stop
No, go
me.
ahead, please.
Okay. In the meantime, another critique is corruption, as if you don't have corruption. Yeah, I know there is legal, but then here we had corruption because it's very difficult to not have that. If you can't sell your oil freely, you have to find an intermediate country that they will buy it, and then they will sell it to the third one. But that's all, obscure because the United States can't know about it. If they do, then they're screwed. Okay. So in that process, of course, it's very easy to find somebody who says, oh, nobody's watching this because this is underground. So I'm going to take money from it. So for a while, we were exporting that way oil. And that oil that money will never come to our treasure, because these corrupt people, they were reporting less, exportation than there were. And it took a while to know that was happening. And then there is the crypto thing, we started paying with cryptos because we don't have access to the SWIFT system. So, and we need to pay somehow. But crypto is very anonymous. So the government is still looking for money that was siphoned through crypto. We don't know how. It's very difficult. Even though we have some specialists, it's not that easy. So it's like, yes, it's true. There is corruption. There have been corruption. And yes, we can't avoid it because the methods we have to use are very, very obscure. You cannot check. They are not balanced about it officially. So, that's some of the lies that we know because when you have a half truth, you don't have to explain much. You just say that.
Yeah, and that's it. Now, let's go ahead and then before I move on to the other subject, now, how is Delcy Rodriguez doing? What do you expect out of Delcy Rodriguez?
Okay,
who is now the president?
Yeah, she is. Okay, she is the president. I don't know if you watched the press conference that she gave.
The first or the second?
Okay, the first.
She was
For me, it was a huge relief. We didn't know a thing. It was all rumors. Everybody was waiting for information. I'm very patient because I know how it works. You can't just go and say this or that. You have to meet the rest of the government. You have to evaluate what happened. You have to know what to say. And, you cannot say whatever you want. So it was a relief for me because it was, like I said in some note, a monolithic, press conference. We had there the whole government. We had all the heads of the different powers, justice, moral power,
military,
whatever the names are. I don't remember the names now in English, but they were there, all of them, all the military high rank generals and almirants that are, in the government. And for me, that was very important because there were rumors like, oh no, Delcy, she's just in Russia, he's in Cuba. It was all a lie. Yeah, I try not to listen to the rumors very, very much because I always know that many of them are just trying to divide the Chavistas. Okay.
Right. So
she is the president. Okay. And no matter what Trump says, they didn't put her. Our Constitution did that. Our Constitution, like I think yours too, says if the president is temporary out of the country, not even kidnapped, out of the country, the vice president is in charge. So she is president in charge because the Constitution says that. And our National Assembly, they just swore her in. Okay. And she is, okay? She is, although the opposition, they just make jokes about how she's so ugly. and she looks like a monkey or any animal they think out of their head. She's very intelligent.
Now, tell me, why is it that they put so much on her physical appearance? I find it ironic that, and you may understand this, nosotros somos Latinos. It has always been a problem that person who took over Venezuela after Carlos Andrés Pérez were not white.
No.
And isn't that true?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And I think that is...
He was mixed as Venezuelans. Most of Venezuelans are.
Most Venezuelans are.
Like a little bit Indian or indigenous, a little bit black, a little bit white. You know, it was that sambo, we call it.
Right.
Yeah.
It was interesting because I found it interesting that all of the people that are over here speaking are the ones that we call in Panama los rabiblancos, that are over here in the United States, that are really rah against Maduro. And given that America itself is not the most un-racist country there is, they simply behave the same. But I was just surprised at how they went at her on physical appearance and not about whether she's left and right or whether she's a socialist or not. They actually went after her appearance. It was amazing.
Yeah, I'm not a psychologist. I don't have a crystal ball, but I think that it's because they can't attack her because she is dumb, you know?
Right, because she's so smart. Yes.
Yeah, because she's so smart. She has 2 or 3 different master's degree.
Yeah.
She's a PhD. She's a doctor. Not here. She's a doctor in France, you know,
right.
France, you know. So they cannot talk about it because, you know,
right.
Oh, and it's not like she wasn't the president, okay? Maybe she wouldn't win. She's not very charismatic or beautiful, okay? She's very intelligent, so she's the vice president, like her brother, who is a psychiatrist, and that has helped a lot to the government, you know? Yeah, for sure. And, you know, there's something like stupid about it every time because, you know, Chavez, she had a degree too. She was in the military, and people in the military, they study. They have, you know, a lot of knowledge about the country, history, laws, whatever we need for a president, but still, as you said, he was not white. Okay, but we've had like not so much white presidents in the past, and it didn't happen. But she was like more not white than
exactly. She was more not white. Chavez was more not white. That's why it was interesting. Yeah. Now let me ask you this. Go ahead, please.
Yeah. And then Maduro, he was a bus driver. You know, that's all he was. It turns out that he was once a bus driver and he was a union leader, but then he was 7 years like Secretary of Exterior Relationships. You know, that's not nothing. Okay. And he was vice president then, and then he was elected president, but still he was the bus driver. So there is always something denigrated, you know, about people when not all of the opposition, but many talk about them.
It is that. Now, let me ask you this, because now I know that nobody knows exactly where things are going to go, but Donald Trump goes out to the United States and says that your oil is really his oil. And does the Venezuelans hear that? Do they already know that he said that?
Yeah, about it.
And then he also says, I guess he won't put boots on the ground. I don't know who he would fight. I don't know if he doesn't realize that Latinos fight very hard, but you know, he doesn't quite know that yet. But the other thing that he points out is that he is going to stop every ship that attempts to leave Venezuela with Venezuelan oil, which would pretty much cripple Venezuelans' economy. What do Venezuelans intend to do? Are they going to temporarily sign some contract with Trump, giving away your oil and putting him in control of your oil fields? Or will Venezuelans say no way and find some way to go ahead and get around it?
Well, you know, the thing is that we sell our oil to whoever buys it at the fair price, okay? We haven't been against the U.S. companies buying our oil. It's Trump that didn't give permission to the companies to buy our oil, okay? We have a relationship with some Texan companies which have the permission from him, to have our oil, like Chevron and other small ones in Texas too, and some from other countries, again with his permission. But as long as they pay, we couldn't care less.
No, but what
If
about
they
what?
pay
Right.
the price, of
But
course.
here's what concerned me about the ultimatum he gave yesterday. He said that he wants Venezuela to kick China out, kick Russia out, kick Cuba out, and do not sell directly to those countries. But those countries could buy Venezuelan oil through Trump.
Okay, that's my opinion. That's not gonna happen.
Okay.
Because we won't trust, read my words, we won't trust the United States anymore. Okay? And now we trust China and we trust Russia and we trust Iran because they have been helping us with medicines, buying our oil, buying our gold, paying for that, not asking for anything.
Internal affairs, right?
In change, they are not trying to change our policies or anything.
But how do you get your oil out of Venezuela if there is a blockade on your country?
Well, we'll find a way. For example, I don't know if you know that after those 3 stolen tankers.
Let's call it pirated tankers.
Yeah. After that, not seized, okay, not captured. Yeah. Stolen, piracy, and whatever it is. Well, after those, you haven't listened about another one.
Right.
We have, for example, we received naphtha in a tanker from Russia, and they were protected by Russian war ships.
Okay.
They were our bodyguards there. And the United States didn't attack them.
Okay.
No, they won't have a war with Russia. They wouldn't dare. Okay?
So let me ask you then. China is also buying a lot of oil from Venezuela. Will China bring its destroyers to take their oil as well?
Yeah, they probably will find help from Russia or Iran, or I don't know if they will bring them. I don't know. They are making a huge platform in Gulf de Maracaibo.
Who is China?
Yeah, right now, this moment.
So in other words, the oil is going to be pumped from offshore to the platform where their ships can pump the oil from the Maracaibo?
Well, they will extract the oil there because
in Maracaibo. Got you. Okay.
And then they will take the oil.
I got you. Donald Trump wants you to get rid of that.
Yeah, and we have contracts signed.
Okay, got you.
And we are trying to get in the BRICS.
Right.
And that's still a for sure thing in the future.
Why aren't you in the BRICS already?
No, we're not. We're not in the BRICS. We are commercializing products with the BRICS.
Okay, got you.
After the 2024 election and all that propaganda, Brazil stopped Venezuela from getting in. We had the vote from all the other 4 main members.
The major, India, Russia, China,
I think,
South Africa.
South Africa. Okay.
Yeah.
We had all those votes and Brazil opposed. And, it has to be unanimous.
Well, the Lula wasn't in yet, right?
Yeah. Lula was there, but he was just fresh out of jail.
Lula. Yeah.
Yeah. He feared the United States a lot because he was innocent and he went to jail. He had the support. I mean, Bolsonaro had the support of Trump, his best friend. And well, that's my interpretation.
That Lula da Silva, yeah.
He didn't want.
Yeah.
He didn't want to go against the United States, and so he just. It wasn't Lula. Lula didn't say no. It was very complex because Lula is the president, but he's not actually the only one governing. And he didn't go to the meeting. The opposition to Lula, who were still in the government and still are. I don't know what branch it is.
Right.
I don't know many things about their politic system, but they were the ones that go there. And, the order was yes to Venezuela from Lula. It was all, everybody thought that was going to happen. And then, like half an hour before the voting, a guy came and asked to talk with Brazilian representative there, and he changed his mind.
Oh, maybe.
When you vote in that kind of events, that's a formality. The discussion were made before, even
Right.
before, and there is a resolution written. Everything is ready. And then suddenly the Brazilian guy said no.
Right. Okay. Yeah. That was
What
the,
the-
yeah. But anyhow, I imagine that you'll be in BRICS soon. I mean, because I think the rest of the world is starting to see that they won't allow one country to bully other countries as they are right now. So I'm pretty sure that they'll be led into BRICS. But I'm glad to hear that Delcy Rodriguez and her running administration will not succumb to what Donald Trump is making everyone believe that she is in his hands, right? You know?
Yeah, and she doesn't care what Donald Trump tells you. She doesn't care because that's your country. Okay.
Right.
So he can say that, but if you read the lines of his message,
right,
he talked about market price.
Right.
Okay. I don't know if you remember before when he was saying that in the last period of him, he almost destroyed us. He was going to take the oil for free.
Right.
He's been trying that again and again. Every negotiation, he thinks he can do that. And Venezuelan government says no. And then he brings his aircraft and then he does whatever he's doing. And for the first time, he talked about fair price. And then he says that he will control the money.
Right.
Okay, what he says. We don't believe him.
Let's talk about a different aspect here. Over here, we have also been told that the elections, I think it was last year's election, was a fraud. In other words, that Maduro did not win the election. You're a professor and you're knowledgeable not only in the area of Caracas, but around the country. Did Maduro win that election, in your opinion, or not?
Yeah, of course. I'm sure we have, our system is very easy to check because, it's not like you have machines there, but
right.
they produce an act, what we call an act paper.
Over here, it's called an audit trail. We want that on all our machines. All our machines do not have audit trails.
Okay,
our electronic machines,
But that's not enough at all,
Right.
What happens here? Every single voter, because we don't have intermediate, it's one vote, one person. Every person has a little paper which says who he or she voted for, and that paper goes to a box. So every votes are there at the end of the day, and the long sheet that we call act,
right?
They're printed at the end of the night. We use usually night, and then every center they have to open not 6%, not 10%, not even 20%. But 51% of the boxes, not of the votes, of the boxes. So if you have 6 boxes here, you have to open 4, okay? Because 50 is not enough. You open those boxes and you count the votes publicly. Whoever, fits the room can get there. You count the votes. You compare the results with the launch, okay? And then if there is an inconsistency, you have to look for the
inconsistency between the right.
Yeah, let's say here are 500 votes and there are only 498 papers. So you go to the notebook that the people there, they write all the incidents of the day, and you find 2 people, as a protest, they tear the paper, they didn't put it in the box. Okay, when this is finished, you connect the machines to Wi-Fi, somehow, different ways everywhere, and you send the information, to the central processing center. So it's not like the government can change that, because you have all the votes and you have to preserve them for a year or something. So anyone can ask for their box to be checked.
So let me ask you, let me ask you that. Are you saying that even as most of the people, all these other organizations that came from the US and other places that have said that the election was stolen, you're saying that is great misinformation that we put out?
Yeah. This is what happened according to my knowledge. You can ask Arturo Dominguez. He knows a lot, even more about it, surprisingly. Well, the night when the transferring of the information was going to the main center, the opposition, they attacked the system to impede that. Okay. So they couldn't change the data, but they could stop the transmission. So they stopped it to create unrest, you know, and to give our friends from the United States the time to publish their poll results, their which is illegal here, but they did it anyway because they're not here. And well, then I knew that there was organizations paid by the USA here before the election, like planning this thing. There is this company called Sumate, owned by Maria Corina Machado. Well, they were the ones that produced or created the web page where supposedly there were all the information about the centers of votation of vote. Okay, and even though when the government said who won, they didn't have more than 30% of the information. Well, they said they won, okay? And they were so stupid that they say, we won, we have 30% of the votes already here, and we won. You can't win with 30% of the vote, okay? But then what they did was before or at the same time, they hacked the CNE Electoral National Council.
Yeah.
He hacked the page. So they didn't allow the government to put the information that is supposed to be there for the people to see their own table, their own votes. Okay. The first thing he did was that, okay, they had a lot of people hacking most of the governmental pages. At the same time, they published what they say are the real results. Okay. Of course, that was replicated around the world. And that was credible, supposedly, because they put a screen or pictures or of the papers. Okay. Arturo can tell you that he spent weeks. I didn't spend so much time. I checked the information they had. And as him, I could watch that many of them were real. If you took your phone to the QR code, it would say like coffee restaurant, whatever, or they weren't the real codes. And then you could see that the signatures of those weren't the real signatures.
So in other words, let me see if I get this, because I'm running out of time. Let me see if I get this right. Okay. You are telling me that the fraud was really what they were trying to use to show the election was fraudulent was actually the fraud.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
And why is that story not told? I need to interview Arturo Dominguez on that one.
Yeah, he's told it like many times. He restacked again stories that he reading at that time.
Right.
Well, he said something that for me, there are two things for me very important that corroborate this. One is that there were 10 candidates of the opposition, and 9 of them said that their papers were the same as Maduro's papers. So they said he won, okay? Because in each center of voting, there is representation of every
candidate.
Party.
Yeah.
Okay, every candidate. Okay, that's one. And then there is another one. You remember listening Rubio and Trump saying that Maria Corina or Edmundo, both, they did, which were the main candidates of the opposition, they weren't going to be the transition government because they didn't have the support in Venezuela.
Of the people.
They had the support outside Venezuela, but not inside. So let me tell you how in hell they could win if people were outside Venezuela and they couldn't vote because the consulates were closed because many countries broke relationships
with Venezuela. So they couldn't vote in Venezuela.
So they didn't vote, only voted mainly the ones that were here, and they are not enough. There is not enough support inside Venezuela, but they won. Yeah, that's ridiculous.
It is more than ridiculous. Well, look, I appreciate the time that you've spent with me, Profesora Elizabeth Raven. Let me tell you, it's been a pleasure to speak to you and get some truth out of Venezuela. I think what we have to do as independent journalists, I am biased. There's no doubt about it towards the progressive side, but it's still important for us to go to the sources because our mainstream media not necessarily lies to us, but pretty much takes the information that is being fed to them too often instead of going ahead and trying to research from different sources. So I want to thank you very much, Professora, for spending this time with me. And I am glad for the positive news you received today. And I'm saddened by the negative news that you received today. Thank you so kindly for having been on Politics
and I'm
Done Right.
sorry.
When I speak about the portion of the evangelical church, large portion that is supporting Donald Trump, or a clear and present danger to the American way of life, a clear and present danger, to put it bluntly, to humanity, many people think I am being overzealous. They think I'm overboard, etc. But it's not the case at all. You just have to read the tea leaves. Well, CNN earlier in the summer did a piece with a senior pastor of the Christ Church named Doug Jones. And this guy wants to put us back into the past. This is the guy that believes in slavery. This is the guy that believes that women should not have the right to vote. This is the man that believes that the man should run everything and the woman just has to oblige. I want you to listen to this because as I watched this, I sat back and I thought, these people treat women as discardable, but it's even deeper because they show what's the word? They show how weak they are. They show how vulnerable they are. They show that they are not real men. And when I say that, I don't say it in a sexist manner. I mean that they think there is something to manhood that only exists if they can dominate another woman. That's who they are. That's what the patriarchy is. That's what we have been fighting for decades, actually for millennia. I want you to listen to this and then we'll take it on the other side.
Over the summer, a new church quietly opened up in Washington, D.C., just 3 blocks from Capitol Hill. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth and his family have been spotted attending church there. Now, it's part of a network known as the Communion of Reformed Evangelical Churches, and its aim is global Christian dominion under a strict interpretation of the Bible. So in this Situation Room special report, Pamela Brown visited Moscow, Idaho to meet the pastor behind the movement.
Christ Church senior pastor Doug Wilson makes no apologies for his beliefs on God and country.
I'd like to see the town be a Christian town. I'd like to see the state be a Christian state. I'd like to see the nation be a Christian nation. I'd like to see the world be a Christian world.
And now Wilson's controversial views as a Christian nationalist are gaining sway in the nation's center of power with the recent opening of his new church and high-profile parishioners like Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth.
Is planting a church in D.C. part of your mission to try to turn this into a Christian nation?
Yes. So every society is theocratic. The only question is who's theo. In a secular democracy, it would be demos, the people. In a Christian republic, it'd be Christ.
Well, what would you say to someone watching this to say, look, I'm a Muslim. Who are you to say your worldview is better than mine, that your God is better than mine?
Well, if I went to Saudi Arabia, I would fully expect to live under their God's rules.
But you said earlier that you want this to be a Christian world.
Yes.
So you want to supplant their religion with your Christian.
Yes, by peaceful means, by sharing the gospel. There's a lot of work yet to do. I believe that we are working our little corner of the vineyard.
Wilson's Little Corner, a picturesque campus nestled on the outskirts of downtown Moscow, Idaho, is growing by the day with thousands of like-minded Christians. Parishioners of his church, known as Kirkers, own and operate several businesses downtown, next to liberal college town stores.
If it's true.
A big focus of his Christian movement is on a patriarchal society where men are dominant and women are expected to submit to their husbands.
Women are the kind of people that people come out of.
So you just think they're meant to have babies. That's it. They're just a vessel.
No, it doesn't take any talent to simply reproduce biologically. The wife and mother, who is the chief executive of the home, is entrusted with 3 or 4 or 5 eternal souls.
I'm here as a working journalist, and I'm a mom of 3.
Good for you.
Is that an issue
No.
for you?
No, it's not automatically an issue.
Josh and Amy Prince, along with their 4 kids, moved here from Washington State.
Do you see Amy as your equal?
Yes and no, in the sense that we're both saved by grace. We're absolutely on equal footing, but we have very different purposes, God-given.
But do you see yourself as the head of the household, as the man?
He is the head of our household. Yes, and I do submit to him.
So like moving here
I was just going to say that.
ultimately your decision.
Yes.
That's a great
example.
Wilson says in his vision of a Christian society, women as individuals shouldn't be able to vote. His fellow pastors, Jared Longshore and Toby Sumter, agree.
In my ideal society, we would vote as households. And I would ordinarily be the one that would cast the vote, but I would cast the vote having discussed it with my household.
But what if there's your wife doesn't want to vote for the same person as you?
Right. Well, then that's a great opportunity for a good discussion.
There are some who have gone so far as to say that they want the 19th Amendment repealed.
I would support that. And I'd support it on the basis that the atomization that comes with our current system is not good for humans.
And Wilson, a veteran himself, is unapologetic about his view that women shouldn't be in certain leadership or combat roles.
Looking at the leadership page for Christ Church, it's all men. Do you accept women in leadership roles in the church and in government?
In the church, no.
Why?
Because the Bible says not to.
Well, that's not what happens in the Bible. Women do lead all the time.
Progressive faith leader Reverend Jennifer Butler is concerned about Wilson's growing influence.
He is rapidly gaining in power. He has hundreds of churches established around the country. They actually literally want to take over towns and cities, and they have access to this administration.
Wilson is part of a broader Christian nationalist movement making inroads with the Trump administration, with a newly created faith office led by evangelical pastor Paula White Cain, and people seen right outside the White House entrance praying and speaking in tongues.
We are standing on the soil of the White House, and we are declaring your word.
How precious!
And now there's a monthly prayer service at the Pentagon, initiated by Hegseth, Wilson's highest level connection to the administration.
It's not organizationally tied to us, but it's the kind of thing we love to see.
For his part, Hegseth has publicly praised Wilson.
Now we're standing on the shoulders of a generation later, the Doug Wilsons and the others.
Wilson's influence spans the globe with more than 150 churches. Wilson maintains all are welcome to his church, but he's also not shying away from his past controversial statements on race.
Do you still believe what you said back in the 90s, that there's a mutual affection between master and slave?
Yes, it depends on which master and which slave you're talking about. Slavery was overseen and conducted by fallen human beings, and there were horrendous abuses, and there were also people who owned slaves who were decent human beings and didn't mistreat them. I think that system of chattel slavery was an unbiblical system, and I'm grateful it's gone.
What he also wants gone? Same-sex marriage, because he thinks homosexuality is a crime.
In the late 70s and early 80s, sodomy was a felony in all 50 states. That America of that day was not a totalitarian hellhole.
So you would like America to go back to that?
Yep.
Wilson maintains his ultimate goal is to bring about the second coming of Christ through his work, and rejects critics' claims he's trying to make the dystopian world of The Handmaid's Tale a reality.
I'm not a white nationalist. I'm not a fascist. I'm not a racist. I'm not a misogynist.
Now, he says, I am not a fascist, but I want to control every aspect of your life. I want to control every aspect of the economy. I want to control the world by making them Christian nationalists. I am not racist, but at the same time, I think slavery is okay. I'm not racist. I am not a white nationalist, but I think it is okay for others to own slaves, as long as they don't do it in the very manner in which it was done in the United States with the whip and the slides, etc. But as far as owning human beings, oh yeah, come on. No problem in owning human beings. You know, the reporter, he also says he's not a misogynist, right? But of course, the women have no rights whatsoever other than whatever the man tells them they can do. This weak pastor said, "Yeah, I'm all for that. You know, if we are to vote, I'll discuss it with the household, but I will make the vote." Question: what about if this woman doesn't like your vote? Well, we'll have a good discussion, right? But in effect, it is my vote. This is bringing us back to the Stone Ages. And if we continue to support this, I mean, you know, a lot of things don't happen until they grow on you slowly. You see, Hegseth is now a member of his church, his version in D.C. Okay, or he attends a church at least in D.C. There, they talk about caring about humanity, but Hegseth is out there blowing up boats, over 35 of them, over 100 and something people dead. Where do you draw the line of humanity versus barbarism, which is what all of these people represent? We better wake up. 2026 is here. We are at 2026, folks. My question to you is, are we going to do all that is necessary to ensure that these barbarians do not become those who rule this country? They're ruling right now. Hegseth is going to his church. Donald Trump is being preyed upon by them. And I don't mean preyed, P-R-E-Y. I mean, well, probably both of them. P-R-E-Y and P-R-A-Y. Yeah, I think probably both of them. So we have to really hold down the fort, and we must make sure that we do what's necessary going forward to ensure that these barbarians, that these charlatanes, that these weak men, that these insecure men are not the ones ruling this country. Insecure people do not rule effectively. It's an impossibility. We've got to wake up. We got to do what's right. Support for this show, Politics Done Right, comes from politicsdoneright.com, publishers of How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It, As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom, It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors, and other books written by Egberto Willis.
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willis. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWI